What's up, guys? Roberto Rosas here, welcoming you back to the Believe YouTube channel. This week, it's all about shallowing, and today we're going to talk about what are some of the key ways you can check if you're shallow in the golf swing. So we're going to have a bunch of instructors giving you some key checkpoints to check if you are on the correct pitch on the way down in the golf swing. Take a look.
Now, when I'm referring to steep during the downswing, what I'm really referring to is the shaft, okay? So during the downswing, if the shaft gets very vertical or pointed straight up and down, that would be what I'm gonna call steep. So the shaft can be somewhere between, let's say, straight up and down, or this would be horizontal. Anywhere between here and here would be typically where your downswing is gonna be, somewhere in this angle. The more towards vertical, the steeper the downswing is. The more towards horizontal, the flatter or shallower, if you will, the downswing will be. Now, most really good players will fall somewhere in between this straight up and down and this straight horizontal, typically somewhere close to a 45-degree angle. We've talked in previous videos about the idea of, during the downswing, getting the butt of the club pointed back at the golf ball or the ball target line, and that'd be a fairly good reference point there. But what about for you guys and gals who swing down and it gets too steep? Why does that happen? Now, one point I want to mention before we talk about that is, when I say steep during the downswing or shallow, I'm not talking about your hands moving in a certain direction. A lot of people will send me a video and they'll say, hey, I'm steep because my hands move out. Well, no, that has nothing to do with it. Whether my hands move back or down is going to influence where the shaft is, but that doesn't define a steep downswing. It's not where your hands go, it's where the shaft is in space. That's steep here, is vertical.
So we're looking at, you're talking here about sequencing and about getting that compression on the golf ball. It's difficult to do that if you're in poor setup.
100%. You even see some of the best players in the world who have poor setup. And it looks good because they're set up like an athlete, but then they spring up through the ball and they throw loft. But all we know is you need solid contact, distance control, and controlling your curve to be a good player. Okay. So it doesn't mean it's efficient. It just means that, you know, if you still can do that, you can still play golf. But I like efficiency, I like solid contact, max distance, and all the rest.
And it's interesting, if you've seen any of George's stuff on Instagram, you'll look at some of the guys and they may not look necessarily, yeah, it must look, you know, sometimes maybe a little rounded. But there's a reason for that. As you mentioned, you want to keep that balance point maybe a little back as opposed to getting forward.
Okay, so the first thing you're going to look at is Johnny's armpits here are over the balls of his feet, okay? Now, if you look at his butt is more under his heel, stick your butt back real, yep, right there. Now what Johnny would do is just take it to first parallel. If he sat up here and I told him to stay in this posture, he'd fall on his face. So his first instinct would be to hump right under it, and that's bringing swing direction out to the right, face open. So now he's going to have to do something with his hands to square it up.
All right, so now let's go through the progression. And again, to recap on this, the only way I can come in on plane is to make sure that I square this face up. And that squaring of the face comes from rotating this handle. So if I'm looking from down the line, here's my club face straight up and down. Here's the butt end of my club. And if I'm rotating that just like a clock face rotating, you see how that opens and closes the face. Now, if I'm used to, that's one way to open and close the face. What I want you to do is go ahead and go to the top and relax your arms. You don't have to be tight here, but I want you to imagine, again, this clock face. If we can rotate that, what would be to my right, the logo of my left hand going up toward the sky, the palm of my right hand going up toward the sky, my knuckles kind of rotating this way, that would be closing the face. So you see as I came on down, that would be a closed club face. As I come through, that would be closing it to where it would be promoting much more of a hook or a draw.
First foot comes straight down. The club is going further behind my back of my downswing. This is pointing, never this. It's always, my left arm's way higher than my right. Way higher. You can always put the club in this way, never, you know, the other way, that will fall there. My club would always fall, never in front of me, always back behind me. Here's the master move. The feeling of greatness.
So a great way that I find to explain how the right arm works, if you look at an archer, right, somebody that shoots a bow and arrow, they have a little round bag on their back called a quiver that holds all their arrows. So anytime they need an arrow, they pull that arrow out of their quiver in this fashion. You see how I'm just pulling it straight out of that bag. They could not do it like this. Okay, so in golf terms, what that would feel and look like, right? If they were pulling it out of their bag the wrong way, you can see how it starts to push my club out and over, right? The right way would be getting that right arm to unfold like this, right? So that's me just working my right arm just vertically downward and letting it unfold, okay? I start to add that with a little bit of body rotation, and you can see we've got some pretty good positions on the downswing.
Now, if you found this or any of our other videos helpful, don't forget to subscribe, like below, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a video from us.